dissing, I'm a who that. I'm a who that. Long as I'm living, I'm a who that. Lose or winning, I'm a who that. Sports coma, yeah, this is where we do that. Where we do that, where we do that, where we do that, where we do that, where we do that. Boogie like Benson, I'm a who that. I'm a who that. Sports coma, this is where we do that. Where we do that. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Somebody please better help. Running this thing like Elf. I thank God every day I'm not a felt. Go to YouTube Live with Big Q and the guys. If you ain't ride or die, the bandwagon get flipped. Been marching in, that was way for the ring. I was yelling out your shame for the championship. Fucking on town, duck down. Falcons, pluck, get shut down. Panthers ain't much touchdown. The vision really belong to us now. So much hate on the Saints, you could probably tell. Ever since Bounty Gate hit the NFL, when things seem fishy, then you probably smell the crooked referees or Roger Goodell. Fucking like this, and I'm a who that. Every day I'm living, I'm a who that. Lose or winning, I'm a who that. It's the sports coma, this is where we do that. Where we do that, where we do that, where we do that, where we do that, where we do that. Boogie like Benson, I'm a who that. It's the sports coma, this is where we do that.
You're listening to the Sports Coma with Big Q and the guys on the PRO Media Network.
Welcome. You know, I'm rocking with the Sports Coma with Big Q and the guys, where we have intense, entertaining, educating, and enlightening sport talk from your favorite sports fam. I'm in this thing. Shout out to the fam. Happy Monday to you guys. Appreciate you for being in the stream. And this one called Saints Trial Vets. We got some other news notes we're going to go over on this episode of the show. So please feel free to spike upon the like button, hit the subscribe button, and by all means, feel free to share the show on your social media feed. We are up in this thing. Shout out to the mighty Who Dat Nation. All right, let's jump right into it, fam. As we get into it, Saints make some moves earlier in today. We know we're getting closer and closer to training camp, fam. Here we go. Saints bringing in a few people. We know that they put Nick, Billy in the street. We know we put Big Billy in the street, Billy Miller. And we were like, what's going on with that? Possibly the Saints definitely looking at bringing somebody in that was probably a little bit better. And the Saints ultimately decided to bring in a couple of guys for trials. Let's go into this episode of the show. Shout out to the Saints News Network, Bob Rose, covering it. Saints visit with Pro Bowl guard Trey Turner. So New Orleans hosted Pro Bowl offensive lineman on Monday, and he's been with several other teams since then, but this is a good sign to add a good vet like Trey Turner to the team. So they didn't add him yet, just trying him out. NFL insider Adam Scheffler, the ultimate football insider, is the tweet that inspired that was tweeted early in the morning by Shefty. And Saints are meeting with Pro Bowl Trey Turner. That happened today. We'll get later, probably tomorrow we'll hear more about what exactly happened here. But Trey Turner, who is a graduate of St. Aug here in New Orleans, played collegiately at LSU, another guy that's a local brother that had a lot of success outside the building. He was a third-round choice by the Carolina Panthers back in 2014. Played 9 seasons, his first 6 with the Panthers, where he earned 5 straight Pro Bowl trips from 2015 to 2019. Since 2020, he spent 1 year each with the Chargers, Steelers, and last year with the Washington Club. So hopefully, this could mean something. We'll see what the Saints do on this. Ultimately, but Trey Turner has missed 20 games over his 9-year career. 7 of those came in 2020 with the Chargers. He started 118 of 126 game appearances, predominantly at the right guard position. He's 6'3", 315 plus pounds, is an outstanding run blocker and agile enough to still aid in solid pass protection. If signed, he'll compete with the likes of guys like Cesar Ruiz, Andrews P., Kelvin Throckmorton, James Hurst, and rookie Nick Saldiveri. There you go. New Orleans is also have an open roster spot from releasing center guard Billy Price, and Turner could add skill, depth, and experience to an offensive line that has been battered by injuries as of recent. So getting a big physical guard like him here could help. The often injured Pete, who missed 40 games over his 8-year career, including 19 contests the last 2 seasons. Ruiz is coming off a foot injury that prematurely ended his 22 campaign. Throckmorton has been solid but limited filling at both guard spots. Throckmorton to me has been a disappointment. Saldiveri will start training camp on the physical unable to perform list and with a leg injury. So Hurst is a reliable veteran, but is also used at the tackle in event of injury to Ramczyk or Trevor Pennon. So having a guy like Trey Turner, would be interested if the Saints elected to sign him. The Saints ranked 19 in total offense last season, including 19th in rushing production. Their 4.3 average per carry and 12 rushing touchdowns, both ranked 22nd in the NFL, while the Saints quarterbacks were sacked 38 times. So we need to definitely add guys with a. This is true. Trey Turner has an impressive resume. He really does, a solid, impressive resume, and he'll come at a at a good discount. So could we bring another New Orleans fellow home, bring him back to the city in a reserve role? This is definitely an interesting move by the Black and Gold. Trey Turner's been good for a very long time, and just listen, he's an upgrade over Kelvin Throckmorton in my estimations. Nick Saldiveri is still dealing with issues. He's right there, and Trey Turner gives the Saints a solid guard option for in terms of a backup. And then, of course, if somebody gets banged up, he can also start in the pinch for you. Sounds like a terrific move if the Saints decide to ink big Trey Turner and bring him to the Black and Gold. So this is a good, smart, solid move by the Saints, looking at trying to improve the offensive line. You got to look at it because you got $150 million quarterback sitting there. And if injuries start piling up on the offensive line and we have a guy that go down, Trey Turner would be a phenomenal player to kind of fill in with all that experience at a high level of production for those years. Why not? So it all comes down to him. They working him out. If he can pass the physical, why not put Trey Turner on the team? Let me tell you something. That'll be really awesome. And I like this move by the Saints. So big ups to the Saints. Let's give them a round of applause for that, man. Let's give them a round of applause. Shout out to the Saints. Good move. Solid move by the Saints trying to trade turn out. We'll see what it all turns into. So anyway, let's go to the next report right here. And this is also from the Saints News Network. Shout out to those brothers. This time is Mr. Kyle T. Mosley on the scoop. The Saints workout veteran defensive end for the team. And the Saints love those Jet guys, don't we? They love those Jets guys. We love them. And they come in. The Saints recently picked up another big defensive tackle, Big Nate Shepard from the Jets, and we get another guy that can come in and possibly try out as a reserve end. Hey, it's not exactly the veteran defensive end I was looking at. Not exactly the same good guy I was thinking about. But anyway, Saints bring in veteran defensive end Kyle Phillips for a workout at the Saints Oshner Performance Center facility, according to NFL insider Tom Pelissero. The former Jets pass rusher went undrafted in 2019 NFL draft, but earned a roster spot following an impressive training camp during his rookie campaign. Phillips led the Jets with 18 tackles for loss. He had 52 tackles and a sack and a half. Not bad. On December the 12th to 21, one of his game highlights was sacking Taysom Hill, his first sack in 2 seasons. He's 6'4", 280 pounds, had played in 29 games while collecting 2.5 sacks, 65 tackles, 12 tackles for a loss, and the pass defense in his NFL career. So he's another guy the Saints are looking at. The Saints love looking at these defensive ends. He's not exactly the veteran guy I was looking at for defensive end. But the Saints looking at those Jet defenders, aren't they? Now, should the Saints and Phillips agree on a contract, he would challenge veterans Passanio, Peyton Turner, Carl Granderson, Nico Lalos, Jabari Zuniga, and rookie Isaiah Foskey for a defensive end spot opposite of Cam Jordan. The Saints need additional production from their edge rushers after recording only 18.5 sacks in 22-23. Now, Phillips, who's 26, managed to register 8 sacks, 115 tackles, 16 tackles for loss, and 9 passes defended while playing for the Tennessee Volunteers in his collegiate career. Shout out to Brother Kyle. So this is a guy the Saints bringing in, not exactly the veteran pass rusher we were thinking about. We were thinking about somebody a lot more accomplished. No disrespect to this brother here, no disrespect to Kyle Phillips. But we were looking at somebody, a little bit more accomplished to come here. But the Saints, we'll see if they keep looking, if this turns into a thing. But the Saints are looking in 2 spots, trying to improve the offensive line with veteran depth because of some of the stuff that's happening. And, of course, adding another pass rusher. Now, the brother does have the ability to get behind the line. He got a lot of tackles for loss, which means he's penetrating and getting back there and making things happen. I was watching film on this brother, and he does have a lot of athleticism. He's very intriguing and interesting. at the same time, but like I was saying, I was looking for somebody a lot more accomplished in terms of the defensive ends the Saints look like bringing in. But once again, Saints bringing in some of these jet defenders, man, and these jet defenders looking interesting. We keep bringing in jet guys. Nate Shepard. We talked about the safety last year. Marcus May, he comes from the Jets. Demario Davis had a little stint with the Jets. So and the Saints bringing in defensive guys from the Jets to help out the defense. So the Jets had a pretty damn good defense over the last year, and the year before that, they had pretty decent defense. Last year defense, they actually were pretty damn good, man. So your Saints looking at it saying, man, we can get some help here, and they definitely getting some help. So that's two of the moves happening so far for your black and gold. Also to announce, family, Aaron Wilson of the NFL, he tweeted out this just about 5 o'clock this afternoon that Shaq Davis, wide receiver, and wide receiver specimen, 6'5", 200-pound plus Shaq Davis, Miller Forrester, Kendre Miller, and Nick Saldiveri passed their physicals. So there you go. They all passed their physicals. So that is a big thumbs up. And it's reported by Aaron Wilson that once again, Shaq Davis, Miller Forrester, and Kendre Miller, along with Nick Saldiveri, all passed their physicals. So that is what's up for the black and gold. This just came out right before 5 p.m. this afternoon. So good, just spinning that out. So that's good news right there for the black and gold. Also, to kind of add some more news, y'all hit the like button and please feel free to share the news item with you on the social media feed. It helps us out. Legendary Saints defensive lineman Leroy Glover is to join the team's coaching staff for the training camp. How about that? Jari Evans, and now we got Leroy Glover on the coaching staff to help out the Saints. Man, Saints Wire on the Scoop Sigler giving us some good game. This really made me happy. NOLA.com's Jeff Duncan reported that the Saints are bringing in Leroy Glover onto the coaching staff for training camp and the team's preseason games. Now, Glover is this year's Bill Walsh Diversity Coach Fellow, a program the NFL describes as an opportunity to give talented coaches the opportunity to observe, participate, gain experience, and ultimately gain a full-time NFL coaching position. Now, Glover bagged 50 sacks in 5 seasons in 79 games with the Saints. He earned Pro Bowl and All-Pro recognition in his final 2 years with the team. He went on to Dallas and closed out his career with the Rams, ending his run in the NFL. He had 83.5 sacks and 6 Pro Bowl appearances. 83.5 sacks for an interior defensive tackle. Leroy Glover was a monster for the Saints. Loved Leroy Glover, man. He was selected to the Pro Bowl, Pro Football Hall of Fame's all 2000s team, as well as the Saints team Hall of Fame. Now, Glover recently coached the XFL St. Louis Battlehawks defensive line. He's one of several former Saints players on the team's coaching staff this season. Jari Evans was hired the offensive assistant after he worked with the team as a coaching interim last season, and taking the job once filled by old offensive lineman Zach Strief. Having the kind of experience Evans and Glover bring is highly valuable. Hopefully it pays off well in the fall. This is a very positive thing right here, because getting a guy like Leroy Glover to join the Saints and perhaps be an assistant defensive line coach with the type of production and the mindset that he had as a New Orleans Saints, could you imagine his insight, his tutelage, and his mentorship of the Saints interior defensive linemen? Even some of the edge guys, he had 83.5 sacks as a defensive tackle. Leroy Glover was something special when he played, man. We had a lot of great interior guys for the Saints for many years. I'm very happy about this one. We're going to be keeping an eye out on that. I'm very happy about that. Okay. All right. So let's keep it moving, family. On to the next one. And let's talk about this, man. And unfortunate news right here is the Lions optimistic that Chauncey Gardner-Johnson didn't suffer season-ending injury after being carted off. This happened. Detroit signed a former Eagle safety, former Saints safety as well, left Detroit's practice on the cart after suffering a non-contact leg injury Monday, according to the Lions website. Now, Chauncey Gardner couldn't put any power on his leg, suffering the injury during a light team drill. Several teammates went to check on him, including quarterback Jared Goff. Lions are optimistic that the knee injury is not season ending, according to the Detroit Free Press. He signed a 1-year deal at $8 million with Detroit in free agency. Chauncey reunited with Lions defensive coordinator Aaron Glenn, who was his defensive backs coach with the Saints from 2019 to 2020, joining a revamped Lions secondary free agent signings of Emmanuel Mosley, Cameron Sutton. The trio was tasked with fortifying the Lions defense and ending the franchise 6-year playoff drought. Now, Chauncey's tied for the NFL lead with 6 interceptions last year and was expected to play a pivotal role in the Lions secondary in creating takeaways. Now, Chauncey is out for the foreseeable future. Detroit has a rookie second-round pick in Brian Branch as an understudy at the slot cornerback position, along with Kirby Joseph and Tracy Walker III at safety. Now, Adam Schefter did retweet what Phil Yates said about 8 hours ago, that the MRI on Lions safety Chauncey Gardner-Johnson revealed no structural damage to his knee and is considered day-to-day at this time, he's being told. Great news for a huge part of Detroit's reshaped secondary after Chauncey Gardner-Johnson left practice earlier today. No structural damage. That is a big positive. So there you go. So he'll be all right. He'll be all right for the most part. So anyway, let's keep it going as we move on. And then, of course, we're going to bounce and shake into this one right here. And this is, of course, we're getting ready for the training camp. And, of course, one of the vaunted training camp battles is Alontae Taylor versus the likes of Paulson Adebo for the number 2 spot, right? And, of course, right now, a lot of people at first, I was like, yeah, well, people were down on Paulson Adebo because of how he played last year. Remember, he was a sophomore slump. Alontae Taylor could go through that this year. Alontae's very good. Paulson Adebo's very good. But it is an open competition for the second cornerback spot. It's not like, you got Dennis Allen coming out here saying, hey, man, listen, our guy is Paulson Adebo, and Alontae Taylor is where he is. No, they're setting it as a competition, which is very good. I know Alontae Taylor could play outside and inside. He showed it last year. Can Paulson Adebo do the same? I would have to say I haven't seen him play inside, because he's mostly been outside. But I can't, I would not imagine that he couldn't do it eventually if he was forced to. If he loses the battle between the two and it was forced inside, then he would ultimately have to learn that he's smart enough to do it. It'll take some reps to do it. But remember, sophomore slump is a real thing. Several players go through it all the time. Anyway, let's hear some commentary right here from Paulson Adebo and Alontae Taylor on what they said. This is not very long, about a minute.
Last year, I feel like I belong now, and I kind of feel like that. I guess older vet, big difference, man. I'm talking about I'm out there making mistakes, and I'm kind of hard on myself right now about it because I kind of wish that I could just get it right now, but it's just not happening. So just going to continue to watch tape, ask the coaches the questions, and I have guys helping me out as well.
While takeaway numbers were far from ideal, Paulson Adebo says the end of last season can have a trampoline effect.
Trying to pick up where we left off last year. I think we finished second in passing yards allowed last year as a secondary. So I think this year just trying to build on top of that, and we got a lot of guys back, and we got some new guys as well. So I think we're very, very confident in what we can do this year.
Under new defensive coordinator Joe Woods, both Adebo and Taylor have a back to the basics mentality.
Helping us be really attentive to our details. So I've loved everything that he's done coming in.
Very detailed. He's big on technique, and that's what I like. I think technique is probably the most important thing, especially as a corner.
After his one-year stint with Dennis Allen at Oakland, Joe Woods' first year as defensive backs coach of the Broncos ended with a Super Bowl win. First season with the 49ers, first playoff appearance for them in 6 years. And first season with the Browns as defensive coordinator, Joe Woods helped end an 18-year playoff drought. So if anyone can turn the corner for the Saints' defensive backfield, it's him. In Metairie.
All right, so there it is. That's some of the information. You see Joe Woods out there performing. You heard what Paulson Adebo and both Alontae Taylor was saying about him. They use the same word, detailed. And we talked about it. We played several interviews from Joe Woods. And I was like, man, I love Joe Woods, man. You listen to him. The dude knows what he's doing. People love Joe Woods because he can coach the game. He can interpret and speak the game. He's a very positive person. And we just fortunate to have a guy like Joe Woods. And he's there to try to get his system in place. Dennis Allen loves him. He's a defensive coordinator there. We know that the cornerbacks is his specialty. Marcus Robinson handles the safety. So, and he just takes care of that. And he's the D coordinator. Everybody on the team reports to him. He reports to Dennis Allen. That should help out. but it's positive, and it'll be a very eye-opening competition between Paulson Adebo and Alontae Taylor. So to get some insight on those brothers before things really get cooking and shaking is a positive in my book. So anyway, and of course we can definitely ask the great Saint think tank and the entire Who Dat Nation, who do you guys believe ultimately will win the job? Will it be Paulson Adebo or will it be Alontae Taylor? Remember, going into his sophomore year, right? So we'll see. Well, we'll see how it all shakes going forward, man, for these guys. So ultimately, I like both these guys. In the end, this is a win-win competition. Whoever wins the second job or the boundary position. So it'll be interesting to find the inside-outside guy. Me personally, I'm gonna have to go with Paulson Adebo. I think Paulson Adebo wins the job back, which will probably keep Alontae Taylor in the slot, which I really like him being in the slot, to be honest with you. And I think that is probably our best 3 cornerback rotation is Laddie Daddy, Adebo, and Alontae Taylor. You guys might disagree with me, and that's fine. All right, so anyway, let's keep it going, fam, as we get ready to keep it shaking and baking. We move forward with our next one. And now let's talk about this. All right, now I played a video the other day about Dan Orlovsky, Dan Orlovsky. People was kind of clowning me how I pronounced the man's name. It's Orlovsky. Okay, Dan Orlovsky. All right, so Dan Orlovsky's been showing a lot of love to the Saints recently. It was supposed to be a segment in which the ESPN people was supposed to kiss the Jets' ass for the segment, and Orlovsky kind of threw a curveball in there, and he threw the Saints in there as a team that had the best offseason. And the reporter had to bring it back to the Jets because that's what they do. They're not a real sports organization. They are Disney. It's an entertainment business. That's why a lot of their stuff be falling through the floor. But anyway, Orlovsky talks about his NFC South QB rankings, which shouldn't be a big surprise because of the obvious fact that the inexperience of so many of these quarterbacks in the league. You got a 10-year veteran with all of the experience. So that got to count for something. And I keep saying that over and over again, that you have a guy that's 10 years in the NFL. All of his years have been a very decent years. He had several years when he was over 4,000 yards. He almost had a 5,000 yard season. I'm gonna say this again, and even some of the other commentators or analysts said the same thing. He never, and I think James Jones, the wide receiver, he said this too, and I agree with him. He said the Raiders never had the type of weapons the Saints had. They never had, not saying not to disrespect what they have, but what he was saying was a full cupboard of the type of weapons, offensively speaking, that the Saints have given Derek Carr. You know, so it's like they're judging him based on what he had in with the Raiders, and that's ridiculous. You know, the Saints have top-notch players everywhere, and that will be a big-time blessing for Carr. But anyway, let's get into what Dan says about about what he believes in the NFC. Here we go.
Our quarterback, Dan Orlovsky, joining us. Let's take a look at the NFC South, all right, with the quarterbacks?
Sure.
All right. New guy.
Yep.
New guy.
Yep.
Rookie. Second-year guy with the experience. Where do you put Desmond Ridder when we rank these quarterbacks?
A lot of unknown for kind of all of them. I'm going to put Desmond Ridder at third in this division. The body of work last year wasn't big enough to really place him above that, the little timing play or the time on the field that he had. But I'm intrigued. I think athletically he'll be used a little bit like Philadelphia did with Jalen Hurts last year. He's got big guys on the perimeter, Kyle Pitts, Drake London. They drafted Bijan Robinson. This is going to be one of the, if not the most dynamic run games in the NFL. As long as he allows those big body playmakers on the outside to make plays and give them chances, I think he could be a very intriguing and surprise type of player for the Atlanta Falcons.
I'm intrigued now. Who's at 4 here when we talk about the newcomers?
Everyone knows I love the guy, but partly because Baker Mayfield's turnovers is why he's at number 4. I think we know what he is as a quarterback. He's had moments of good football, but the interceptions just have to go away from his game. Kev, he's not a high-level player or athlete enough to overcome the decision-making and the turnovers. And so until he becomes a little bit more consistent with that, I think that's going to hold his game back, and that's kind of been the story for the past couple of seasons for him. That's why I sit him at 4.
We'll see if the Bucs are in the Caleb Williams sweepstakes the way they look right now,
Right.
roster-wise. Who's at number 2?
Yeah, I kind of went back and forth on this one. I want to be honest because I have such high opinion on this guy, but I'm going to put Bryce Young at number 2. I think Bryce Young is going to be everything that he was advertised coming out of Alabama. That clip right there is, to me, is going to be a big storyline. How he operates under center. Frank Reich and his offensive staff is going to put him in great situations. He's got good players around him, not great players, but enough. I think with the offensive line being way better than people expect it to be, they're going to be a dominant run game. Bryce is going to live in the RPO world, and his creativity is going to be a big part of their offense. I think he sits at number 2. And then a much better player than America kind of wants to accept, Derek Carr, rightfully so, sits at number 1. This is a very intriguing situation. This is still a good offensive line in New Orleans. If Michael Thomas is healthy, and then Chris Olave, you're talking about a dynamic and explosive and very good high-end duo when it comes to wide receivers. If Derek Carr goes there and plays the type of football that for the majority of his career he did with the Raiders, not only is he going to play really well, and this offense will be very good in New Orleans, but we're talking about a team that should be a playoff contender as long as that defense plays the way it did the last 8 weeks of the season last year. So I think that's why Derek Carr deserves to be number 1.
And then one backstory. He's got a chip on his shoulder.
Totally.
You know, especially how it ended in
We don't want
Vegas.
you anymore.
Exactly. Couldn't finish out the way he wanted to on the field. Now he gets the chance to do it in New Orleans.
All right, that what it is, and that's very interesting. And once again, he breaks down some stuff there. As you can see, the graphic on the screen as he finished with Carr in the NFC South rankings, putting Bryce Young at number 2 ahead of Desmond Ridder and Baker Mayfield. A lot of people don't believe in Baker Mayfield. A lot of people out of Tampa Bay believe Kyle Trask has an opportunity to really beat out Baker Mayfield, which is it just shows you how far he's fallen. You know, in terms of being a quarterback. It's tough in the NFL, isn't it? But you speaking about Derek Carr, and like Dan said, he spoke about the fact that the team, that a lot of people are not ready to give Carr his respect. And that's fine. That's fine because people have to be able to witness and see Carr take it to the next level. That's really what it's about, right? He has to take it to the next level. Like I said, I make this comparison. I've been saying it because it's been hitting me. I watch film on guys like Matt Stafford when he was with Detroit. And then Stafford leaves Detroit, goes to the Rams, and then his game was already pretty sturdy and solid with the Rams. They just didn't have everything it took to go to the next level. When he went to the Rams, he was perfect for what they did. They had the offense in place, the weapons in place, the defense in place, and then it was just boom. It was just a match made in heaven. They were able to win a lot of games, even get a Super Bowl. Could we be having our Matthew Stafford moment with Derek Carr, where he moves from an incomplete or half a team the Raiders had with Carr for the last several years and moved to the Saints, where the Saints defense, or Orlovsky talks about the Saints defense, if they can stay in the top 15 rank. And I do think the Saints defense will, I don't know if they're top 5. You know, I'm going to be honest with you because there's some questions that need to be answered. Like, I really think they'll improve stopping the run. There's issues in terms of who will be the opposite end versus Cam Jordan. There are several options there. The Saints have to solve that before week 1. And then, of course, you know, there are depth concerns at the linebacker level and such like that. But outside of that, the Saints, from an offensive standpoint, are ready to take it to the next level. You know, now, can Carr be the guy? Could he take it to the next level with everything the Saints have gifted him? Only time will tell. But once again, Orlovsky's telling you, you know, in the previous stream we did with him saying the Saints, they're the team there. A lot of people that say that's not much of a surprise, Q. I mean, a lot of these other teams are, Tampa Bay is a team that is in, you know, kind of in somewhat of they are in rebuilding mode, right? They still have, you know, some of the best, 2 of the top wide receivers in the NFL. They still have some really interesting, intriguing players on defense and offense. So they're, you know, but they're weak at the top position of quarterback, which could infect them. That could infect or affect how they'll be able to win games this year. Having a guy not having a sturdy option at top of the QB position, let me tell you something. After going through that last year, it is a very difficult thing to win in the NFL when you don't have that. Of course, he talked about Atlanta. I like Ridder. Ridder doesn't make many mistakes, but he's not going to wow you. So they're going to be a run. You're going to run the ball and play defense. I knew what Atlanta was doing. We know exactly, but it's not hard to tell. And Carolina is the very intriguing and interesting team. And I would look at them as a future team, like next year and beyond, of them being a strong team in the NFC South and competing with the Saints, and eventually Atlanta it's going to be top. It's going to be those three teams competing until Tampa Bay gets their quarterback next year. But really and truly, if you look at it, 10-year quarterback got to count for something with all of the weapons the Saints have given Carr. The defense hasn't really fallen that far. Last year's guys like David Onyemata, Shai Tuttle, and Kent Street, those guys were awful. Saints got in, I ain't going to say better players, but there's some interesting players with Nate Saunders and Kalen Saunders and Nate Shepard, along with Brian Breesy. Add him to the fold there. So that's really intriguing. And of course, drafting Isaiah Foskey, Carl Granderson, say, hey, I'm ready to take this job on to my own. I've been here for 5 years. It's my time. It's my time to shine. And of course, you got Peyton Turner, the first-round draft pick, say, hey, man, I'm healthy. And first-round draft picks are supposed to start. So we'll see who's right when week 1 hits, but we start real soon on getting to that. But anyway, once again, Dan Orlovsky gives the Saints credit. He talked about how they're the team in the NFC, and then he gives them the top quarterback. And of course, 1 + 1 makes 2, right? But anyway, with that being said, that's going to be the end of the stream. I'd like to thank you guys for joining me for this episode of the show. Please feel free to hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the share button, and by all means, feel free to share the show on your social media feed. We up in this thing. As always, Tacoma's representing. Join the movement. Join our Patreon at patreon.com/the Pro Media Network. That's patreon.com/the Pro Media Network for locked content. All that's available on Q with Big Q, all that kind of stuff, plus all of the Saints study of film work and all this other kind of stuff that we do on Patreon. It also helps a lot funding a lot of the other stuff we do, in terms of Pro TV One, our content creator site that we launched several months back, the whothatdaily.com, where we have at least several articles written per day by really fantastic writers. So it'll be really helpful if you would join the movement by contributing financially speaking. All other support you give is fine, but for those who can, please feel free to continue to support our new supporters. Come on out, patreon.com/the PR Media Network, or simply join our YouTube page. Man, we got a movement going on here, man. A lot of great things stinking and popping in the Who That Nation as we get ready and tool up for this upcoming season. So with that being said, listen, I love y'all. I appreciate y'all. And we're going to pop up here for Patreon. We about to do our Patreon show going on this afternoon. So we'll be up in the building. So much love to the fam. I appreciate y'all. We're going to holler at y'all on the flip side. Who that? And I'm out.
Yeah. Boogie like Benson, I'm a who that. I'm a who that. Long as I'm living, I'm a who that. Lose or winning, I'm a who that. Sports coma, yeah, this is where we do that. Where we do that, 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 Boogie like Benson, I'm a who that. I'm a who that. Sports coma, this is where we do that. Where we do that. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Somebody please better help. Running this thing like Elf. I thank God every day I'm not a felt. Go to YouTube Live with Big Q and the guys. If you ain't ride or die, the bandwagon get flipped. Been marching in, that was way for the ring. I was yelling out your shame for the championship. Bucking on town, duck down. Falcons, pluck, get shut down. Panthers ain't much touchdown. The vision really belong to us now. So much hate on the Saints, you could probably tell. Ever since Bounty Gate hit the NFL, when things seem fishy, then you probably smell the crooked referees or Roger Goodell. Yeah, probably like this, and I'm a who that. Every day I'm living, I'm a who that. Lose or winning, I'm a who that. It's the sports coma, this is where we do that. Where we do that, 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 Boogie like this, and I'm a who that. It's the sports coma, this is where we do that.
You're listening to the Sports Coma with Big Q and the guys on the PRO Media Network.